Alright guys, Mike from Boyer Bows here. When I left you last time, I was reducing the back of the bow down to a single growth ring, and that's where I am now. And you can see that I've also got some lines drawn on here that look very much like the how to make a high performance longbow for under $10 Mulgavet, which is a bow where the limb is divided in half. Half of the limb is a working limb, and half of the limb is a static limb. It doesn't work, it doesn't move. This is a very lever-oriented bow. Now, from pictures that I've seen online of the Lakota bow, I thought it looked very similar. Very similar. A little bit different, and we're going to do those differences throughout the course of the build along. It's much more streamlined. The tips are going to be flipped. But for the most part, I just, for whatever reasons, thought it looked very similar to that. So that's what we're going to do. If there are any native peoples out there who get angry about that, I apologize. It's just the best I could come up with from looking at pictures. Alright, so again, if you want to turn this into a Mulgavet instead of a Lakota bow, the measurements will be the same. The whole stave is 55.5 inches long. So what I did was I cut the stave, measured the stave, and found the halfway point, which is 27 3/4 inch. I'm going to use 5 inches for the handle at 1 1/4 inches wide. I'm going to have a 2-inch fade to the full length of the stave. Now, I'm just going to do that. This is wider than this part here, but when I'm done cutting out the stave, I will even the whole limb out. But for now, that's just my guideline. And then we have the working limb. Now, the main thing to remember on the working limb and the static limb, they should be equal. The working limb, which is where the starts here, where this fades into the full width and ends at the last place where you have a full width, because this fade is going to be thick and it isn't going to bend. And then obviously this part doesn't bend. So this number between from the end of this fade to the beginning of this fade should equal from this point to the end of your bow. Now, so whatever bow size you decide to make, if it's a 60-inch bow, a 70-inch bow, or a 40-inch bow, that's your number. You cut the total distance from here, which is the end of this fade, to the tip of the bow, divide it in half, and then from the halfway point, you're going to fade out. In this case, I faded out 1.5 inches, and then it faded to 1 inch, which is going to, again, taper into 3/8 of an inch at the tip. A little bit different than the Molly. And then, of course, repeat it on this side. Another thing, in the process of reducing this, I'm not going to reduce the area where the handle and fades are going to be. I'm going to leave that full size. So this area here, between here and here, I'm not going to reduce this wood. I'm going to leave that full size. Alright, so let's put it in the stave press or your vise, and we'll get started. Let's see, that looks good. Alright, so what I like to do first is I'm going to get the stave cut out before I start reducing the belly. I sanded the belly down a little bit so I don't get too many splinters, although it looks like I could have done a little more. The first thing I'm going to do I'm going to come in here with my draw knife. And I'm going to go from the beginning of the fade out to the tip. And I'm just going to try to reduce that without going beyond it. Now, You can do this with a rasp. You can, if you've got a bandsaw, it goes a lot quicker. But the process is basically just getting the wood off the stake. That's why these lines are important too. You need to be able to keep your eye on that line, make sure you don't go beyond it, or obviously big trouble. I'm going to do that to the static limb and the fades. I'm going to do that to the handle, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like, guys. I'm going to break this up and do a little bit of a different video, a couple of videos here. So we'll call this video number 2, but we'll move on again for the after when I'm done. All right, it's Mike from Boyer Bows. We'll see you in a little bit.